Hey everybody, and welcome to this episode of a run through. So today we're going to be taking a look at Rogue Legacy 2. Just came out today, which is the 18th of August. It was initially set for the 23rd of July, and then it got pushed back a bit. It's also pretty wild too, because the original one came out in 2013, and then this is 7 years later. So I imagine it's been in development for that time, at least in some capacity, because I think they've only put out another game in between that. But yeah, Rogue Legacy was kind of one of the first like major titles to sort of capitalize on the roguelike genre. I would say Binding of Isaac was up there, and then this was not far after that, and it was one of the other like kind of big ones that sort of was a solid game and then sort of propelled that type of game a little further. So as you can see, or just saw on the screen there, that's sort of the skill tree. So basically what you're doing is going on each run, collecting gold, coming back, or rather dying, and then coming back, spending it on that, so you sort of upgrade the whole every run going forward, which I think they did a really good job of it when the first one came out, and I think they've expanded on it quite a bit here, which is nice. Then you'll also sort of find secrets and stuff too, and then other items and things that will obviously make you better throughout each run. It's not in the same sense, at least so far as from what I've seen, as like other roguelikes where you pick up an item and that will modify the run indefinite, or like for that portion, it's more like you'll continually find items to make your next run different. Like the random nature of it sort of starts with the character class itself, because those will have different variations based on genetics. So if you're like colorblind, or there's some really wild ones which I'll show here in a little bit, but one of them was like all the enemies were hidden, so they were all like behind like a censored screen, so you couldn't necessarily tell what they were doing. And that one also, that run had some like color trail thing, so every time they shot an item or you jumped or did anything, it would leave colors behind. So it was really jarring and super hard to see what was happening, and that was sort of where the variation went in. And that's kind of the thing I think that makes it feel like a tad bit not updated to the traditions of roguelikes nowadays, because now it's like you'll sort of get items and then you'll keep progressing, or you'll get different weapons and kind of keep going through there. And maybe some of that stuff comes in later. I didn't make it super far. This game is really difficult, I will say that. And the first one I remember being pretty tough too, but this one I think extrapolates on that a little bit. But yeah, so traditionally, like, you'll get items that'll increase stuff as you go along. This one is you'll sort of find stuff and equip it before the run, so you're trying to set yourself up as best you can, as opposed to hoping for the best as you go along. So it's a little more thought out, I guess, in that regard, and especially starting out with which character you choose. You know, you have certain limitations based on what they are, or bonuses depending. So yeah, it's a bit different, because like I said, nowadays you sort of pick stuff and build as you go along. This one is kind of the opposite of that, which I'm finding to be not as enjoyable, just because I've become so accustomed to the idea of how roguelikes work now. When you look at like Risk of Rain 2, or I'm trying to think of another good example. I guess Dracula Genesis was another one. But a lot of those will be, built that way. Most are or Hades too. So you sort of find bonuses as you go along. So yeah, it's a little weird, and maybe it gets more that way as it goes along. I may be just not to that point yet, but generally you find stuff pretty early on each run, whereas here it's different. That's not to say this game is bad by any means. I think it's really polished, and it's super tough, and that obviously propels you to keep wanting to do better, because the enemies are all pretty varied, and they have an attack pattern that you'll start to recognize, and then so on and so forth. There's also these sections too, which is like you have the option of certain items that will kind of change. That one was just hell, so maybe that's what I mean, is there maybe more of those that you find. This is like a blueprint, so that'll give you an item that you can equip for the entire run when you start, after you've made it at the blacksmith. There's also like a weight system, so it'll be like you can only equip X amount of stuff before you're too heavy, or whatever. I don't know what happens if you get too heavy, or if it maybe slows you down or does something like that. I haven't found enough items to do so. And then there I died, so it'll sort of show you a recap of everything you went through, how far you made it, and all that. Everything is randomized every time, except for the very starter room you go into. Everything else changes after that. And we'll go on this one here. This might be the one I was thinking of. Here's a better look at the skill tree as well. And then that's not the full tree. It expands as you sort of unlock stuff. The castle will build itself out. Yeah, this is the one I was thinking of. Enemies are censored and everything leaves behind a trail, which is, it gets really, really confusing. But we'll show that. And then here's like the items I have unlocked, and those are equipped. You can buy the ones there and then equip those also. Which I think is a good system. I think it's neat. I like this portion. And I'm not sure if that's like the full extent of the items and if they plan to do additional content and stuff. There's also runes that come from that lady, which will be like overall modifiers. They still tie into your weight, but it'll be like a larger increase to certain specs from what I've seen. And we'll jump in here and see another quick run, and then I'll probably call it after that. Like that's a good basis, or at least from what I've seen of it so far. I obviously haven't finished it. It just came out today. Oh, that's okay. That's something I'll mention. So this thing that's happening right here, this is a new addition. It's like these sort of teleporter things that you just kind of hit a button in between. But there'll also be things that come out between, like they'll push you out at a point where you need to like quickly sort of react. There's also secret rooms, which I feel like was in the other one, but I'm not totally sure. But yeah, here's what I was saying. So as you can see, the enemies are censored, so you can sort of like loosely tell what they are if you've played through before. But this was kind of a bad one to get early on because I was really hard to tell what I was looking at. And then again, all of their items sort of covering up projectiles and things. It was just a lot to deal with. But yeah, you'll also find heirloom items, because when I was playing through it initially, I was like, man, I remember this game having like a dash or like a dodge kind of thing. And then the next run through, I found that item and then found another heirloom after it, but I ended up dying in that stage, so I wasn't sure what that. I didn't ended up unlocking it. So it seems like the heirloom stuff, they give you like a trial to get it, which is sort of like how iDracula does it, which I like that system as well. And maybe there's like a ton of heirloom stuff that I just don't know about, so maybe there's a lot more abilities and other things that really divvy up the way the game plays. I can't say for sure. But it, like I said, again, it does play really well. It demands a tightness out of you that a lot of these don't, and it sort of takes the room for error out. Whereas the other one you can sort of mitigate by just overpowering yourself. This one is like, I think it's more skill based than a lot of roguelikes end up being. So take that for what you will. It is definitely difficult as a result, and the game is not prone to hold your hand or anything like that. Like I think it's geared towards you knowing that you will be dying more often maybe than some other ones. So it's good for quick bursts. Like, it would be a really good Switch game, which I imagine it probably. I don't know. They did the Nindies today, and I don't remember them mentioning it, so maybe it's not on there yet. But I imagine this would be a very good Switch game because it's good for those quick, like 10 to 15 minute bursts. As far as runs go, I'm trying to think if there's anything else like major that I would need to mention. Oh, there is a new. So the way that when you get hit, you have a like moment in time to where you can do a secondary jump, like a recovery jump off of that, and then you can kind of get yourself going again, which I think is a good addition and a good mechanic to have in the game here. And I can't remember either if there was classes in the first one, but there's like the barbarian, the normal knight, there's a magician, and then there's an archer, which all play a little differently. At least your main attack is all different, and then your jump attack is different. And like the archer has to aim and fire, and you have to stay still to do it. The barbarian can attack but can't do it while moving, with the exception of the jump spin, which I find the barbarian to be the most enjoyable one to play, and where I've gotten the farthest with. And then the mage has like you have a close range melee, but then you also, hitting the same button, you'll have a distanced magic attack that doesn't take it out of your magic or anything like that. Which is pretty neat. And I even if there was in the first game, I don't remember them being as diverse as they are here. So that is something to think about, and just kind of adds to the overall replayability. I think there's probably a lot to this game, and I just haven't found all of it either. But I'm not sure. So that is maybe something to consider with picking it up. It is only I think it's $20, but I think it's on sale on Steam at the moment for $17. And then I believe if you own Rogue Legacy, the first one, they give you a discount of I think $2 off it, so it ended up being like 14 or 15, I believe, in total. Which is, I think, for what's here, probably a good price. But again, I don't know the overall scope of the game because I haven't made it super far yet. But I think if it's like the other one, I definitely got tons of hours of play out of that one. And I imagine if there is 7 years full of development here, then I think there's probably a good bit of stuff to uncover and find still. The other thing I will say too is I think you've obviously already noticed it if you haven't played if you played the other one. But they did change the art style, which I think is apparent from the get-go. It used to be an 8-bit game, but I'm actually glad that they did. I like this. Like, I'm a huge fan of that 8 and 32-bit style. But I feel like at this point, if you can't do anything like really substantially different or interesting with it, you might as well try something else, because the game world is really saturated with that kind of look. So I'm glad. I think for their benefit, I'm glad they took a different art style, and it's still really similar to what they had. It's just updated, I think, and I think it sort of with the idea of their timeline going on. I think that would maybe even be a more interesting one, because I will say I bet there is a character that probably has that as their trait, is like they change the world look, because there's like black and white. I've had Sephiroth ones already, and I wouldn't think that there wouldn't be one that would maybe change it to 8-bit or something. I don't know. That is a lot of work to do, to change all the assets and stuff. But maybe I don't know. It would be something I think they would probably do just as a homage to what they've made already. But I don't quite know. And there's a lot of variation on that too. This character was really weird because this one was a pacifist, so you couldn't attack anything. So that made it really difficult. You could only really do your downward stomp to do it, which is pretty wild. But yeah, I think that's it. I think if you know the first game, I think you'll find more of that here. And I think there's a lot to like about it. If you're new to this franchise, I would say this is a good point to get in. But the first one is definitely worth checking out as well. So I will say a quick addendum to this. I was kind of going through, the rest of you still stands, but I was reading through some comments and stuff on the Steam page to actually before I put this up. So I'm making a quick change here. I didn't realize this was actually in early access either. I thought initially I saw it on the store page. I just kind of added it to cart because I knew I was going to be picking it up and didn't see that it was early access. And so from what I understand too, there's only one boss in the game at the moment, and it apparently can be finished in like an hour to 2 hours, depending upon how well you do at these games. And there's like, they were saying like 7 to 8 enemy variations at the moment. So, I don't know, actually. I think I changed what I initially was going to say about this is I would maybe wait. Like, if you're a fan of the game and you think that they can, if you have a feeling that the studio will deliver on it, which I imagine they will as a result of, just how well received the first one was, I would hope they wouldn't falter on this one. But that is something important to note, and I wanted to get that in at the end here, because I just noticed it, and I'd be remiss to feel like I told you to get something that is not finished without knowing that it wasn't. And yeah, so I get, like I said, I guess it's a lot less feature rich than I assumed. So that is something to note. But yeah, I will say too, I found that they plan on increasing the price 2 times during early access as well. I was reading. So again, something to consider. Like, if you want to get in now and you believe that they'll, follow through with everything, then I would say now is the time. But if you're hesitant on that stuff, which is totally understandable, then yeah, I would wait. But just know it will get more expensive down the road. But yeah, thanks again, guys, for watching. I know it's a little weird of an interview because it was or not interview, but review, because it was a little jarring with the information. But Yeah, thank you guys for watching. If you have any games you'd like me to cover or take a look at or anything like that, please let me know in the comments, and then subscribe, all that crap, and I'll see you guys in the next one.